I'm Bambi Francisco for Vader TV, the network for innovators, and I'm speaking with Brian Singerman. He's a venture capitalist at the Founders Fund. Brian also is part of the Google Mafia, right, Brian? Because you've been an angel investor for the last 3 years, and formerly from Google.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
And congratulations to Founders Fund for selling PowerSet, or at least being an investor in PowerSet, which sold for about $100 million to Microsoft.
Absolutely, and congratulations to Barney and the team.
Yeah, good exit. And so the Founders Fund raised, some time ago, about $250 million.
About $250 million at the end of 2007.
Okay.
The second Founders Fund 2. The first one being a smaller fund, about $50 million, and yeah.
So
we're going strong with it.
So you're busy looking at companies. How many? Is it busy these days?
Absolutely.
Are more companies?
In the last month, I've probably looked at roughly 30 companies, so I'm averaging 1 to 2 a day.
Yeah.
Great stuff out there. It's really fun just talking with the entrepreneurs, and this is why somebody should be in this space, right? Because they love talking with the entrepreneurs, they love seeing what the coolest stuff is out there, and Founders Fund is in a great position for that.
Now, the Founders Fund has invested in Zivity, so subscription play, done gaming, and Quantcast Analytics. Is there a type of company that the Founders Fund looks at?
Typically, we like to be, typically we're consumer internet, first money in. That's the background of the partners, that's the background of the, everybody at the firm. However, we've definitely been trying to diversify and look at different things, look at different business models. And the cool thing about Founders Fund is nothing's, too crazy. We want to hear about some of the stuff that may be pretty much out there. And if we can see it, we'll absolutely go with you on it.
So what, besides Vader, what's the best way for an entrepreneur to get your attention?
They can absolutely go to the website and email. They can absolutely email me, personally, and I'll have my email.
Yeah, well, it's on Vader, actually. I guess
me on Vader,
do that.
and I'm more than happy to look at, tons of companies. That's why I'm in this.
Right. What should, how can an entrepreneur get in the door with you? Like, what are the things that grab you?
Traction. Anytime that somebody has traction or barriers to entry, like they've got some really, really, really cool IP that just can't be replicated really easily, or just a new business model that people haven't thought of before, or just something that's when you just go, oh yeah, that makes sense. That absolutely makes sense as a business. It's hard to tell what's going to stick, in terms of what's going to stand out in somebody's mind. But just think big.
Do you prefer to invest in serial entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who've been in the industry?
We prefer to invest in people who are smart, people who we think know their industry really well, people who we can have an interactive conversation with, and we can be like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about, or this woman knows what she's talking about, and that's who we prefer to invest in.
Okay, and are you doing really early stage? Can you write out a $500,000 check, or maybe even a $100,000 check, and then maybe a $20 million check?
$100,000 might be a little
spot?
bit. Yeah, $100,000 might be a little low. We could absolutely write a $500,000 check for something that we absolutely believe in the early stages, and we absolutely can go up at, as high as we need to for something that's just we believe is really, really, really big, and worth it. In other words, there's no rules at Founders Fund. We're absolutely willing to just take a look and see what sticks at anything.
What are some of the mistakes that entrepreneurs make? What should they avoid doing?
Selling themselves short, selling their business short, not thinking big about their business, but you have to think big about the long term, but know in terms of where to start, and in terms of figuring out what your actual customer wants, who your customer is. So having big goals, but knowing you're going to start somewhere, and then working towards those goals and seeing what happens along the way, and being willing to adapt when something changes.
Would you prefer one person or a team, or does it matter?
A team is probably more a team, mostly just because it's it's hard to do this alone. There's a whole lot of stuff that is involved with doing a company.
So I know you said you're kind of looking at a bunch of things, but what are some of like the real good areas out there? What are the analytics, and we talked about that on VaderBox, but what are some really areas that really need some innovation that you'd put money toward?
Well, figuring out how to monetize engagement, as we've talked about, is pretty key. If somebody figures that out, because there's a whole bunch of sites out there right now that have engagement across the board, and that are not just based on page views, as we talked about. So figuring out how to monetize that could be a very lucrative space.
But would you be measuring engagement on the phone or on a computer? I mean, where? Because I know you said you've been looking at a lot of mobile analytics too.
We've been looking at mobile analytics, and we've been looking at in terms of those are mostly in terms of developing ad networks based on behavior for better targeted ads. Somebody figures out how to target ads better, then fantastic, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's just
Yeah. What do you think about the environment now, the investment environment? I mean, it seems like the exits are pretty tough.
It's tough right now. You have to when you invest in something, you're going to have to think more long term than that, right? You have to think, well, we're investing in this. Nothing's necessarily going to happen in terms of liquidation with the company for several years, and who knows what the landscape is going to look like in a few years. But absolutely, right now, the exit market is kind of collapsed. We had 0 IPOs, and we had there's very few big companies that are doing the large scale acquisitions, but business models that work and that make money will always be successful.
Sure.
Regardless of what the liquidation scene looks like out there. So that's what we're looking for.
And what about prices at the earlier stages, or maybe like BC round? Are they inflated because there are a lot of people there, or they're not? Where are they?
There's a lot of venture capital out there, but we're not in like 1999, 2000 levels. We're not in that kind of bubble in terms of money. In fact, money's definitely tightening up quite a bit. Recently. So, and valuations are absolutely high for the really good products out there, but sometimes it's worth it.
Right. And you don't see competition. What we're seeing on Vader is that there's a lot of people, individual investors, new angel networks. There's a lot of groups coming out there that can provide the early stage capital.
Absolutely,
so
there
do
are.
You see competition there for
the early stuff? Absolutely. A lot of time, I did angel investing for 3 years. Love it.
Yeah.
And the lines between venture capital and angel investing are definitely getting a little bit more blurry. In fact, some entrepreneurs are trying to take the route of raising reasonable sized numbers from a lot of different angels. The problem with that is that the raise can take a long time, and it's tough to close with a whole bunch of different people. But there is a lot of the people willing to make smaller size bets out there.
Right.
And this, stems from the fact that there's definitely still money in this area.
Yeah, there's money.
And people, and the fact of the matter is, people want to get involved with these companies. They feel a passion there, and so that's why people are willing to be like, yeah, I want to make this bet. I want to bet on this team. What I look for is
the team. Yeah.
Across the board. If I'm doing angel investing, it's all about the team.
Well, yeah, the team, because they're the ones that have to execute on this. So.
Yeah, and they're the ones that, if it's a smart team, they'll be willing to adapt and figure out what the market's actually looking for, and go
be
from
scrappy.
there and be scrappy, and
themselves.
They're going to be successful at some point. The good entrepreneurs, the good teams, they're going to have a win. So I'm willing to bet on that.
Okay, good. Well, thank you. That's how you can contact Brian. That's what he looks for: scrappy entrepreneurs, people he can believe in. And I guess they can contact you. They can create their profiles on Vader and contact you on Vader, so you take a look. So thanks for your thoughts.
My pleasure.
And I've been speaking with Brian Singerman. He is a venture capitalist at the Founders Fund. I'm Bambi Francisco.